PC gaming is dying a death, and I think it begins and ends with the superiority of Nintendo consoles. As we all know, Nintendo consoles are superior to gaming PCs in every way. They have way more functionality, they're way more fun to play with friends, they have way better software. But the issue over the past 10 or so years is that the PC master race, the delusional group of terminally online weirdos who refuse to accept anything other than PC gaming as being a relevant gaming platform, have been attempting to gaslight people into thinking PC gaming is superior, in spite of basically relying on multi-plat releases from Xbox and PlayStation in order to stay relevant, right? PC gaming is so irrelevant that it's major news whenever a PC exclusive gets released. And usually it's some like established minor niche thing that just has a dedicated cult following. You know, stuff like Half-Life Alyx or Baldur's Gate 3, right? These aren't major releases. These aren't games that are going to be remembered 20 years from now. These aren't relevant, right? It's only relevant because it's Half-Life. It's only relevant because it's D&D, right? That is the current situation when it comes to PC gaming, is that this is an ecosystem that appeals to people that have way too much time and money on their hands, and as a result generates a ton of revenue in spite of being an objectively inferior experience. And I think with the advent of the Nintendo Switch, with more and more people getting exposed to all these great Nintendo games, Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Fire Emblem Engage, like there are dozens of examples last year alone of games that will never, ever release on PC in any capacity. Oh, what about emulation? It's piracy. So the instant that Nintendo is able to crack down on piracy and start sending these people straight to prison where they belong, where people like, oh no, it's Alex, can enjoy dropping the soap, right? When we see that start to happen, emulation is going to drop like a rock. And in a lot of ways, people don't really understand like Nintendo's anti-piracy protection. Like the anti-piracy software works for the most part. Like people are banging on about flashcards right now. Like probably a single update would patch that out, would make them obsolete. Like there's all sorts of things Nintendo can do to mitigate like this flashcard problem, right? Again, what it comes down to really is that there is a certain demographic that is religiously obsessed with the idea of Nintendo failing no matter what and going third party, when that is becoming more and more obvious is never going to happen, right? It remains to be seen just when and how Nintendo will objectively like surpass PC gaming. Because right now, I think there's like an argument of like, the free online play and like the digital storefront and like, the ability to upgrade your own parts and just like the sheer nostalgia factor of just playing on PC your entire life and simply not knowing what's on the superior Nintendo platform, right? I think it's very clear, simply observing the community, that people who play on both, who have high-end gaming PCs like myself, and and Nintendo consoles, generally lean towards Nintendo consoles. Now, PC gamers will like try and gaslight you into thinking it's the other way around, but that's obviously not the case. So when you look at the actual what Nintendo is doing with their software and hardware, it's becoming more and more obvious that there's nothing that PC has that can compete with this, right? All they can do is just put out worse versions of what Nintendo already has. In order to try and mitigate, try to deal with the Zelda problem, they have to like shove Dragon's Dogma 2 down your throat. They have to shove Monster Hunter. They have to just throw everything they possibly have at the wall to see what sticks, right? From slop, right? They have to like do the Dark Souls thing. Like they have to keep trying to gaslight you into thinking Zelda is like some stale derivative franchise. Because if you knew that Zelda was a innovative franchise that completely redefined gaming with every major release, nobody would really bother with any of this other stuff. Like, what has Monster Hunter done to innovate over the past several years, right? What has Dragon's Dogma done? What has FromSlop done? Like when you compare those franchises to what Nintendo has done with Breath of the Wild alone, you see like a massive gap in quality, right? And it's not just Zelda. Of course, it's Mario. Of course it's Splatoon. Of course, it's Animal Crossing. All of which are completely unemulatable, right? You have these amazing experiences that you can only get on Switch. And the question is, I think, is at what point the general gaming public starts getting sick of PC gamers and their nonsense of claiming that the definitive versions of everything is on their platform, because it's happening. Like I've talked about this before. Like I've acknowledged that Nintendo hardware is objectively superior to PC gaming. I've talked about how Doom 2016 on PC is not as good as Doom 2016 on Nintendo Switch because it isn't portable, right? Right, I've talked about how there's no discernible difference between like The Witcher 3 on Switch and Skyrim on Switch compared to like the PC gaming platform, and all the excuses that people throw out there, stuff like mods, stuff like just higher frame rates. All of it is just gaslighting you, right? It is just an attempt to try and like just throw buzzwords at you, trying to convince you that your platform is inferior. And I think as more and more people start like getting into games and start thinking about them more and start like experiencing what Nintendo is doing and start being more invested in these platforms and start recognizing some more niche franchises, I think Splatoon, Animal Crossing, and Fire Emblem are like the three major players on that front. As more and more Nintendo franchises become iconic, more well known than their competitors, it's going to be harder and harder to downplay Nintendo IPs. Already, it's kind of difficult to convince people that, like, oh, Nintendo, they only have Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon. And I remember back in the 2000s when people would like shout that to the rooftops and then turn around and try to say that like, oh, but those franchises aren't as good as they used to be. Like that was true for like all three of those franchises. And of course it was never true at any stage, but like looking back on it, it's weird seeing stuff like Dark Cloud be promoted, seeing stuff like Yokai Watch being promoted as a Pokemon killer, seeing stuff like Final Fantasy VII seriously being put up there against Ocarina of Time. It's crazy, seeing how Final Fantasy VII was once such a big cultural juggernaut, how it's like slowly faded from the public consciousness, while Ocarina is still considered the greatest game ever made. Because Ocarina is the better game, right? Like that's all it comes down to. The Nintendo 64 was a better console. And of course this extends to the PC gaming community as well. Like they talk tough. They talk as if they have like all these hidden gems, all these indie developers, the better storefront. They try to make Gabe Newell out to be some like Giga Chad alpha in the gaming industry, but like what has Gabe done? When I look at Miyamoto, I see someone who's like working on theme parks. I see someone who's producing movies. I'm seeing someone who's like been involved with like all these classic franchises and wishes he could work on more. Stuff like Mario, Zelda, Star Fox, Pikmin, right? Like all these big innovative things. What did Gabe Newell do? A scientist fights an alien invasion. The most generic, uninspired plot imaginable. Like, what? Like, Half-Life, it's remarkable it's remarkable just how uninteresting Half-Life is, right? It is a franchise that is only remembered because of its association with Valve and like the Steam front, right? Without that association with PC gaming, without being like the only reason PC gaming is relevant, Valve wouldn't be a studio that like anybody talks about, that anybody cares about. Like Valve is a complete joke. PC gaming is a complete joke. All of these companies that just exist, like who cares about any of them, right? Where are the games is what I'm asking. Why would I want to like play TF2 and just like throw in a bunch of hats, pay real money for hats? Like why would I want to pay a subscription fee for World of Warcraft? Like why would I want to do that? Why would I not spend my money on a brand new game on Nintendo Switch? Like the reality is that like liking PC gaming is for midwits, right? It's people who think they're like being smart because like, oh, I can just steal games, on my gaming PC, right? It's not for people who like actually think all that much about gaming. People who actually wonder like what great games are out there? Like what console is the best? What one offers the most value for my money and which one has the most games? Because like if you ask those questions, you end up inevitably at the same place that Nintendo is superior. And right now, it's we're kind of in this interesting period where we're beginning to see the cracks starting to show with PC gaming. Of course, like GTA 6 is not coming day one, and the major platforms that are subsidizing the PC gaming audience, PlayStation and Xbox, they're on the way out. Without those platforms carrying PC, without them carrying PC sales, without them like developing all of the games that will eventually come to PC, like PC doesn't have anything worth talking about. Without PlayStation and Xbox, like you wouldn't have Halo, you wouldn't have Gears of War, you wouldn't have the Uncharted games, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, right? Like all of these games that Steam fans like to hype up, but then not actually play, will just stop getting produced, and that will be at the end of PC gaming, right? It will be an interesting, slow, drawn out death because I think PC gaming more than any other demographic has this cultish mindset around it that like we have to defend our platform no matter what. We have to present it as superior. We can't allow anybody to question it. Like we have to like just obsessively come after anyone who questions the PC gaming master race. You can like go down in the comments right now and see this, but like anybody who questions like the superiority of PC gaming is talked down to and disregarded and made fun of. And I think that's a major reason why you don't see a lot of YouTubers do it because it's just not worth your time or effort, right? You're always better off talking about the games you actually enjoy. But PC gamers will never do that. All they care about is convincing you that their platform is better than yours.